Okay, so chapter 2 is dealing with understanding business ethics and social responsibility. And as I said, each of our chapters is covering various areas of business. And so chapter 1 had a lot of economic concepts discussed in it, right? And so economics is a separate area of study within business. And if you're going to get any kind of degree, associate's degree or bachelor's degree in business, you're going to have to take a class in business ethics. And for our associate's degree here at Prairie State College, we do have a business ethics class. So this is going to kind of give you an overview to some of the topics that you would see in that business ethics class. Okay. So we know about personal ethics, right? What we know and believe about what's right and wrong. It takes on a different context, though, in business, right? Because we're not just making our own decisions, we're working for an organization, and what does the organization feel is right and wrong? And when it comes to business, there's a lot of gray areas. And that's why we have to study business ethics to be able to know how to handle those gray areas. So we want to determine the ethical behavior. Okay, so what are we doing that conforms to what everybody believes is good and what's right? And unethical behavior, what do we define as being wrong? Okay. And we can narrow this down by looking at managerial ethics when we think about what standards individual managers should have when they approach their work. So for managers, what's their ethical behavior toward employees? What's their ethical behavior towards organizations? What's their behavior towards other economic agents? And this is something you're going to have to think about for your business plan project part 1. You'll see in the instructions that you're going to have to give this some thought. When we're talking about behavior toward employees, we're talking about issues concerning hiring, firing, wages, working conditions. For example, a gray area would be, is it okay to hire a friend when you have an open position? Okay. When we're talking about behavior towards the organization, okay, is it okay to accept gifts from suppliers? Okay, they send you a little Christmas gift. You talk to these people. Whenever you're placing orders, you form a working relationship with them, and then they want to give you a gift at Christmas time. Okay, but that could be looked at. Are they trying to influence you with the gifts, right? So that's when it becomes a little bit gray. We might see some of our workers pad their expense reports. They'll slip in receipt from lunch that was not work related, right? We see workers that take office supplies home, right? So those are some ethical areas stemming from behavior toward the organization. And then behavior towards other economic agents. So this could be customers, it could be shareholders, suppliers, dealers, unions. Okay, so there's a lot of dealings that we have to consider the ethical implications. All right, assessing the ethical behavior. And here's a graphic in the book. So we want to gather the relevant facts dealing with the situation. Okay, so what happened? What's the company policy? What are the facts? And then we want to say, is the act or policy acceptable according to the 4 ethical norms? So let's take a look at these ethical norms. So we've got utility. Okay, does the act benefit all those who are affected? So does everybody receive fair benefits? So here's an ethical situation. The office has summer hours, where on Fridays the office closes at noon. However, there's a shipment coming in one of the departments, and so somebody from that department has to be there to accept the shipment, and the shipment's not coming till 3. So they don't get to leave at noon. The rest of the office leaves at noon. Is that fair? Right? So that's something that you would have to think of. How would you handle that one employee that's not getting to leave at 12? Do we cancel the office hours or the summer hours and make everybody stay since one person has to stay? Right? That's something that a manager has to grapple with. How about rights? We have to say, do we respect the rights? Right? So we've got a right to privacy. but you know that when you are sending email through your company email, your employer has the right to read those emails. Okay, what about cameras in the office? Is that ethical? Are we respecting privacy rights there? Cutting wages, right? We got to save money. We had a bad year. Do we cut wages? But are we violating the right to a fair wage for our employees? Justice, okay, is it consistent with what's fair? So you think about you have a team working on a project, okay, and not everybody's pulling their weight. We know about that with group projects in school. And then the fourth one, caring. Is it consistent with your responsibilities to each other just as human beings? So for instance, we have a coworker, that has a serious illness and is out for treatment, right? We need to cover for that person's, position during that time, even though that means extra work for you. All right. So when we gather the facts, we consider whether or not it's acceptable according to the norms. Okay. So if it's not acceptable according to one or two of the norms, think about, is there a reason to override the norms? Is one norm more important than the others? So that's why there is a little bit of a gray area. So we will be analyzing the facts and to determine what is the appropriate moral stance. And then we've got to make a decision. And sometimes it's choosing between, two not so good decisions. We have to say, well, which one is the least bad sometimes? Okay. So we see these types of decisions come into play in business, and it's not as easy as you would think, right? When you just think, well, you do the right thing. Sometimes it's hard to tell what the right thing is. Okay. So two of the most common ways that businesses kind of formalize what our expectations are for these ethical business practices is one, adopting written codes of ethics. Okay. And so we'll talk about the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, and that kind of codified that everybody needs to kind of spell out and have a code of ethics or a code of conduct. And so you'll see that companies have that. And so even your small business, what would you put into your code of conduct or code of ethics? And then instituting ethics programs. So you'll have some type of ethics training, and sometimes you'll see that the companies will bring in somebody who went to jail for some type of white collar crime and kind of, scared straight. He kind of will say, like, this is what he or she did that landed them in jail. These are the pressures that they face, and that kind of, connects with folks. Ethics training where you have, different cases or different role-playing situations where you discuss the right thing to do in specific situations. The textbook talks about Texas Instruments, has a hotline where people can, kind of call in and report when they see questionable behavior going on. The book also talks about Boeing. Boeing violated their code of ethics when they developed the 737 MAX, that we had issues with plane crashes, that they were not following their code of conduct. And then Enron is interesting. Enron had a code of ethics, but they wanted to do something that was going to violate their code of ethics. So they changed the code of ethics to take it out, did the bad thing, and then they put it back into the code of ethics, right? So we can see businesses that are, breaking the rules and trying to skirt around these codes of ethics, and obviously not a good thing. So we can see we have to have our core principles and organizational values, and that's going to be one of the things that you are going to talk about in your business plan project. What are your core principles going to be for the business that you're writing your business plan project about? We want to think about those things, right? Because you would want to put together a code of ethics for your business. Okay, so now we want to take a look at social responsibility. So when we think about social responsibility, and we kind of Think about sustainability. Usually with sustainability, we think about the environmental aspect, but social responsibility kind of talks about your commitment to your community and, to people. So businesses do want to spend money and give back to the community because the community is where they're going to get their customers and their employees. So you want to make sure that you are doing right by all of those groups. And so we have to think about, who are these groups? Who are these what we call stakeholders, right? That they have a stake in our business. They're affected by our business. And we want to make sure that we are doing right by these various groups. So when we think about the stakeholders that we need to really be taken care of, we've got our employees, investors, suppliers, customers, local communities. And we have to make sure that we are, treating these groups well and taking their interests, seriously. So these are the groups that we want to, show that we're acting responsibly towards in that stakeholder model of responsibility. So when it comes to our customers, we want to treat them fairly. Employees and treat them fairly as well. Investors, we want to make sure that we are being good stewards of their money and that we're following what are generally accepted accounting principles and that our financial reporting is sound and it has integrity. So when we're talking about customers, right, we want to charge fair prices. We want to make sure we honor their warranties, that we have, speedy delivery time. We deliver when promised, and that we're delivering a high quality product. Okay. Consumerism is looking at protecting the rights of consumers, right? In business ethics, we talk about the Consumer's Bill of Rights. And we want to charge fair prices. And so one of the ethical areas is collusion. The textbook talks about some airlines that got together and decided to kind of raise prices. And so if they both did it, then there was no competition. So that is a problem. Price gouging, we sometimes hear about that. Like when there's a natural disaster, we'll hear that, places then start, rising the price of bottled water and different things because people are desperate. And obviously that's not ethical. For our employees, right? We want to take care of our employees, not just have them, work all hours of the day, take into account that they want to have work-life balance, so that they can stay with us and contribute to our company for a long time. We want to give them a path to grow within our company. And when we do have to have a layoff, make sure, we do it fairly, the severance packages, if possible, give them notice, help them find a new job, give them, a lot of times, companies will give outsourcing services where they help you with resumes and that type of thing. So just be responsible to your employees, okay? And then be respectful following various laws. Okay. For our suppliers, we want to make sure that, we have, a good relationship with our suppliers. The book mentions some companies, Toyota, Amazon, they have good relationships with their suppliers. They're, mutually respectful. Okay. Sometimes there's stories about Walmart that because they're so big and they have such a high volume that they don't always treat their suppliers well and that they kind of make their suppliers, jump through a lot of hoops because the suppliers want to do business with Walmart because they're going to move a high volume of their product. And so Walmart has sometimes been known for, kind of using that power over their employees. And then the local communities, local and international communities. So the book talks about Target, how Target donates to local communities. ExxonMobil builds schools. Okay. And we'll pick up in the next video the rest of the chapter.